Hey tribe, how are you? So today I just wanted to go over with you the bonus lesson frequency jumps. It's been coming up for a couple of you who have booked private sessions with me regarding finding yourself. So you maybe have been, actually, some of you have been in the tribe for over a year now, and a couple of you are more new. And it's like once you've been doing this inner work, you've shifted, you've had some emotional storms, you've made some changes in your lives, and then suddenly you find yourself in an old environment. So you find yourself, say, at a friend from school, an old friend from school. Suddenly you're at the pub and you're hanging out with this group of people who you used to hang out with, and the energy feels different, or it feels weird to you. It feels bizarre. And then I remember, pops into my mind, that's the frequency jump. So that's when you can really acknowledge that your perception, your energy has really shifted, because now you're looking at your old reality where, again, you used to be that, you used to vibrate that. And yet, because you've shifted enough, it no longer aligns, or it looks different to you, or it feels a bit weird, or suddenly you're not really kind of resonating with the conversation, or maybe people are looking at you a little bit different, or asking you different types of questions. Just it's like kind of Twilight Zoney, as far as like feeling like, wait a minute, I know. It's almost like a dream as well. Like, I know these people, I know this environment, it's familiar to me, but after shedding some of the density, is it true for me? And then when we get used to shedding density, or transforming density, it's more apparent what thoughts, beliefs, assumptions in other affect people's realities. So the frequency jump is a level of detachment that allows us to see frequencies with more clarity, and then honor our own shift, honor, like, wow, I've really worked through all that, and I don't desire talking like that, or that energy level feels different, or all I can hear are people complaining about things, or all I can, right? And then that is a reflection of our old state of being. Now, the miracle, or the kind of real liberation, is when we can get into those spaces and not be triggered by people. So say working with our families would be the best practice for us, is like we get into like our Christmas holidays, or we go back into our family environment, and can we be with our family and not be triggered? And that's like, but like, fair dues, right? Like, that's a good thing for us, to just sit in the presence of the truth of our own knowing, and the truth of who we are, and to not let other people's stuff trigger us, right? And knowing that when we're still being triggered, there's still stuff that we're working through, or there's an unconscious projection that we're acting out for one another, for our own soul's growth, right? And ultimately for our own deeper understanding, because it gets subtler and subtler. Having one another to kind of chit chat about this awareness is really fantastic, right? Because it's sort of new, or certainly it feels new to us, as the human lives that we've lived up to this point. So we're feeling like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like, this is so much beyond where I ever thought my life could go. And oh my God, working with energy, and then I feel my emotions, and I never knew, and da-da-da. And then it's like 3 months goes by, or 2 months, or 2 years, and suddenly you're back in this environment being like, oh my goodness, I've changed so much. And other people can often see the change. They might not respond or react positively or negatively, but you can feel the subtler undertones of people's energetic awareness, right? You can feel those those elements in people where you recognize there's an egoic, there's a sense of being threatened, there's an identified, or rather, that's our ego identification, feels threatened by someone else's energy, because it triggers those pillars in us that we've set up as our identity. And yet, if those pillars aren't really deeply rooted in the core of our essence, then they're unstable. They're not true for us, which is why it's really freestyle in as far as how we permission one another to keep shape-shifting. And it's something that Team Love is certainly exploring and having to deal with in our own expansion, coming from the lives that we've come from, and then now working in a team. It's working in a team with structure and sort of standards and systems, and at the same time being totally fluid with those. At the same time, allowing one another to morph and change direction, and be adaptable, right? There's a sense of fluidity and adaptability alongside this deeper awareness. And it really is this deeper grounded awareness, which allows us to keep expanding in these sort of more fluid, miraculous and awesome ways. It's just, I've said this already, but there's a great paradox here somehow. Every insight, there seems to be a paradoxical edge to it because of the experience that we're living is an experience of separation, yet deep down we know or have this knowing of our unity and our collectivity and the oneness in our reflections, right? So we sense this sort of godliness and divinity in us, and yet we are still creating our identity. We are still creating the embodiment form that we're desiring to create, whether we like it or not, right? Whether we, I was still creating my manifestation. Most of it was just unconscious, and I didn't like it. I didn't like myself. So it was like healing that conflict and then jumping frequencies. I can still look back at different cycles of transformation that I've been in and see how those energetic vortexes were never going to be aligned, knowing deep down why one of my earliest relationships, why that had to dissolve, because his life has gone completely different direction from mine. Even though at the moment of the breakup, it feels like, why is this happening? Everything familiar is dissolving. And yet every time we bottom out, every time we take a leap, we fall, hit the ground, skid out for a while, and then we rebuild ourselves. But the analogy there, you want to reverse it. It has more like a steady climb, and then finally we get to a new plateau. And then how I see that really is like, every time we fall, we're falling, but then when we get down there, we're rebuilding on a new level, and we're rebuilding on a higher level of consciousness, which allows us to have greater love, greater wisdom, and greater energetic clarity. So really the sense that I'm getting of all this stuff is simply that the more inner work we do, the more masterful we become, and the more grounded we are in just being able to stay present in our own emotional field, work through our emotions, and then be guided so that we less and less coming up against our old reality or coming up against undesired stuff, and simply dealing with vibrational residue whenever those old reflections come up, dealing with that residue, but then moving through it and continuing to encourage one another to stay focused on our own little bubbles. And that's like, again, a weird paradox, is like selfless service, but in a sense the self is all there is. And so you want to be in service to self in your ability to create the body and the life and the reality that you desire in harmony with your soul, right? In harmony with your heart. So that we don't need to listen to other people. It's really just in our own heart. And then when we're coming up against the reality and it's not in alignment with that pure heart desire, then we know that that's not the truth of our being, and that we can really just naturally let it go. And it might be letting go of certain people, letting go of certain energies. They might let go of us. And we're like, oh, what the hell? How have you done that? And then realize 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years later, they were never meant to be there. Or it was clear that our energies were going in different directions. It's kind of bittersweet, but then we have to remember that we are all eternally connected, that we really are all one. And so it's only our attachment to external form that leads us into these kind of conflicted suffering patterns, which we all got, otherwise we wouldn't be doing all this work, right? So, but it is liberating to know that you're working through them, and it is incredibly liberating to sort of feel like you've shed loads of density from ancient times almost, and that we are birthing and stepping into these new, more expansive, new flowing energies where at least we know we're all empowered. At least we know we all have the power to create our own reality, versus most of us when we were like little, we were just told we weren't, and we just bought into that and kind of struggled to get by in life, or had a lot of suffering or a lot of pain, and we just thought we just had to live with that, and then breaking through into this freedom state, this total light, like buoyant, kind of amazing reality. That's like just the proof of the pudding of like, who wouldn't want to just feel a few emotions and then basically be free? So it's really good stuff, you guys. You're amazing. I love you so much. I hope that was useful to you. Let me know if you're having any of these experiences with your frequency jumps, and how it feels to just be shedding old cycles, old patterns, and weight from within ourselves. So love you guys loads. Have a great day, and I'll speak to you real soon. Peace out.